Have you ever felt like you were born to do something great? With dozens of ideas and plans racing through your mind, yet day after day you find yourself stuck in the same place? Maybe you've spent hours imagining a bright future, seeing yourself successful, free, and living your dream, but the moment you're about to take action, you click on another entertainment video, or whisper to yourself, "I'll start tomorrow." And tomorrow comes, but you're still standing at the starting line. Sounds familiar? Don't worry. You're not alone. Millions of people are just like you, full of passion, direction, even eager to learn, read, and listen to podcasts, yet they procrastinate the moment real action shows up. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's your brain's way of protecting itself from goals that feel too overwhelming or too vague. But here's the good news. You can change that. In this video, I'll share 3 small but powerful strategies that can completely transform the way you take action every day. 3 keys to flipping the internal switch, breaking procrastination, and moving closer to your dreams. And this is exactly the spirit of Different Thinking, a channel where we explore fresh mindsets to live a more fulfilling and extraordinary life. If you find this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to Different Thinking today. As a thank you, I've prepared a special gift for you, a free ebook titled 5 Secrets to Beat Procrastination and Succeed. You can download it right now in the description or pinned comment below. Inside, you'll find concise insights to help you start making changes tonight. Don't miss this opportunity, because sometimes, one small habit can shape an entirely different future for you. Think back. How many times have you blamed yourself for procrastinating? You've called yourself lazy, undisciplined, or even believed you're not cut out for success. But the truth might be very different. Procrastination isn't necessarily weakness. It's actually a natural mechanism of the brain. A built-in reaction designed to protect you from feeling overwhelmed. When you face a massive goal, like writing a book, starting a business, or completely changing your lifestyle, your brain instantly switches into alarm mode. Too hard. Too far away. I'm not ready. The result? You feel tense, heavy, and instinctively, you avoid the task. That's not a lack of passion. It's your brain's way of keeping you in the comfort zone. Remember, our brains were designed for survival, not success. Thousands of years ago, staying alive was more important than setting long-term goals. That's why, when you face a vague or overwhelming challenge, your brain interprets it as a threat. It sends signals of fatigue, stress, even headaches, just to stop you from stepping into the unknown. So, procrastination doesn't mean you're lazy. It simply means your dreams feel too big for your brain to process right now. Ironically, the very dreams you long for most are often the ones that drain you the most. Why? Because they feel distant, full of steps, full of risk, and the brain hates uncertainty. Picture a familiar situation. You want to learn a new language. It sounds exciting at first, but when you imagine hundreds of vocabulary words, complex grammar, and years of practice, you feel instantly overwhelmed. Instead of opening a book, you open social media. Instead of studying for 15 minutes, you convince yourself, tomorrow will be fine. This mechanism works like a gatekeeper inside your mind. The moment it sees a goal that feels too big, it drops the barrier and blocks you from moving forward. The problem is, if you always let your brain run the show, you'll stay stuck forever. Every dream will remain just that, a dream. So instead of blaming yourself for being lazy, start looking at procrastination as a signal. It's your brain telling you the goal feels too vague or too heavy to handle. The real question isn't, why am I lazy? But, how can I make my brain feel safer to start? Once you change the question, you unlock a new path forward. You don't need 200% energy. You don't need to transform your whole life overnight. What you truly need is a small starting point. Just enough to trick the gatekeeper in your brain and let you cross that very first barrier. And this is the foundation to move forward. In the next section, we'll explore the first strategy, how to break big goals into smaller ones and simplify expectations. Turning the impossible into steps you can start right now. There's a famous saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Yet how many times do we demand ourselves to build an entire Roman Empire overnight? We expect to write a book in a month, master a new language in weeks, or build a brand after just a few brainstorming sessions. And when we realize we can't, we immediately sink into a sense of failure. The problem isn't your dream. Big dreams are essential, The problem is how you begin. Our brains hate ambiguity. The moment you say, "I'll write a novel," your brain reacts instantly, "Too hard. It'll take a year. I'm not skilled enough. I don't have time." And just like that, you quit before writing the very first line. The secret lies in breaking goals down to their simplest form. Instead of thinking about the whole book, just write one sentence. Instead of exercising for an hour, start with a 5-minute walk. It sounds tiny, even silly, but that small action is the most important doorway to change. It's like running a marathon. You can't do it if you haven't even learned to tie your shoes. Small steps don't just help you start, they create a ripple of positive momentum. Once you write one sentence, you'll likely write 10. Once you read one page, you'll likely read 10 more. The hardest part is always the start. Think back to the last time you achieved something. Didn't it start with something small? The first runner only jogged a few hundred meters. The first writer started with a blank page. Success doesn't come from doing a lot at once. It comes from daring to start with little. You can even turn this into a game. Challenge yourself. Today, I only need to write one sentence. Or, today, I only need to read one page. And once you finish, reward yourself with a cup of coffee or a favorite song. That tiny reward reinforces the habit and transforms it into a daily ritual. Imagine climbing a tall mountain. If you only look at the peak, you'll feel discouraged. But if you focus on the next step, and then the next, one day you'll realize you're much closer to the top than you thought. Life works the same way. Success isn't a giant leap, it's thousands of small steps in the right direction. So instead of beating yourself up for not achieving something big, ask, what's one small thing I can do today to move closer to my dream? That single question will completely change the way you act. In the next section, we'll explore strategy number 2. Building habits that are easy and automatic, so you won't rely on fragile willpower, but instead have a system that naturally pulls you forward. We're often taught that success requires iron willpower and unshakable discipline. But let's be honest, willpower is limited. You can rely on it for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but eventually you get tired, lose focus, and slip back into old habits. Successful people aren't necessarily stronger than you. They're simply smarter about how they design their lives. They build systems that make action so easy, it's almost impossible not to do it. Take a simple example. You want to exercise in the morning. If your sneakers are buried in the closet, you'll waste 5 minutes finding them, and then make an excuse. I'll do it tomorrow. But if you place your shoes right by the bed, the moment you wake up, slipping them on becomes a natural reflex. Or when you want to focus on work, don't let the first screen you see when opening your laptop be social media. Instead, make it a list of the 3 most important tasks for the day. Your brain will be guided to start working, instead of wandering off into the endless world of news and entertainment. This is the principle. Minimize friction for good actions, and maximize friction for bad ones. Want to read more? Keep books visible, on your desk or next to your bed. Want to watch less TV? Unplug it and hide the remote somewhere inconvenient. Once good actions become easy, you no longer need to force yourself. And when bad actions become difficult, you naturally limit them. It's like water flow, you don't fight against it. You just redirect it to the right channel. You might ask, if everything becomes too easy, am I just being lazy? The answer, no. This isn't about avoiding effort, it's about being smart with your energy. It's like using the elevator instead of climbing 20 flights of stairs. Nobody calls you lazy. They see you're saving time and strength for something else. In neuroscience, this is called environmental design. Our brains are deeply influenced by surrounding cues. A small object, like a pair of shoes or a book, can act as a trigger for action. Successful people don't wait for motivation to arrive. They create environments where action naturally shows up. So instead of forcing yourself to be stronger, ask, how can I change my environment to make this easier? A tiny shift in your surroundings can completely reshape your habits. Try it today. Pick one habit you want to build, and redesign your environment around it. You'll find you don't need to fight with willpower, action flows naturally, almost automatically. In the next section, we'll explore strategy number 3, the 2-minute rule, an incredibly simple yet powerful trick to overcome the biggest barrier, the resistance to starting. Have you ever felt that even the simplest task feels too heavy to start? Things like tidying up your room, writing an email, or opening a book to study a language. You know it's important, yet every time you think about it, you feel drained and look for ways to procrastinate. This is where the 2-minute rule comes in. The idea comes from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. The principle is extremely simple. Whatever habit you want to build, start with a version that takes just 2 minutes. Want to read? Start by reading 1 page. Want to exercise? Just change into workout clothes and walk for 2 minutes. Want to write? Open a document and write a single sentence. The point isn't how much you complete, it's that you start. Because once you start, those first 2 minutes act like a key that unlocks the door. It tricks your brain into thinking, this isn't so hard, and once you're in motion, you often keep going. 1 page turns into 5. 1 sentence becomes a paragraph. This works like pushing a marble. At first, it needs just a small nudge, and then momentum carries it forward. Humans are the same. The heaviest resistance exists at the very beginning. Once you break through it, the rest feels much easier. I still remember when I first started writing. It always felt complicated and heavy. But when I applied this rule, I challenged myself. Just write 100 words a day. At first, they were random stories, simple notes, but gradually, I wrote more and more, eventually turning those writings into videos. And that became the beginning of this channel. The fascinating part is, once you signal to your brain, I can do this, you start reshaping your identity. You're no longer the person who procrastinates. You become the person who takes action. And that new identity becomes your strongest source of motivation. Imagine this. If every day you spend just 2 minutes planting a small seed, in a year you'll have an entire garden. Success works the same way. It doesn't come from giant leaps, but from thousands of small moments strung together. So instead of waiting for a day full of inspiration, try the 2-minute rule tonight. Want to start a new goal? Ask yourself, what's the 2-minute version of this? Then do it right away. In the next section, we'll talk about the power of small actions and immediate rewards, the secret to reinforcing habits, so that every tiny step fuels your long-term journey. There's a truth most people overlook: small actions, when repeated, can create extraordinary results. Muscles aren't built from one intense workout, but from hundreds of steady lifts. Habits work the same way. They don't come from a single burst of inspiration, but from small, consistent steps repeated over time. The challenge is, our brains are short-term wired. They crave immediate rewards to stay engaged. If you only focus on distant outcomes, like an ideal body or financial success, your brain loses interest quickly. But if you attach every small action to a pleasant feeling, you create a loop of positive reinforcement. For example, after writing a single line, reward yourself with your favorite cup of coffee. After tidying your desk, play a relaxing song for 5 minutes. After exercising, let yourself watch a funny video. These rewards may be small, but the brain registers, this action brings me pleasure, and so it nudges you to repeat it next time. This is how you build fuel for your habits. You don't have to wait until you reach a big goal to feel joy. The joy is in each small step, and when every step is tied to happiness, the long journey becomes sustainable. Think back to childhood. When we learned to walk, we fell countless times, but each time we stood up, we were cheered, applauded. Those tiny rewards made us keep trying, keep stepping. If recognition only came once we could run, no one would have had the motivation to continue. So why, as adults, do we become so strict that we only allow rewards after achieving something huge? Success is not the destination, it's the journey. And that journey needs to be fueled with small doses of joy. Try creating a reward ritual right after completing your first step. It could be as simple as checking off a box, raising your hands and shouting, "Yes," or sending a quick message to a friend. Each time, you strengthen a positive loop around your habit. More importantly, you're teaching your brain this: I am someone who takes action. Joy doesn't just come from the outcome, but from the act itself. This is the turning point that transforms you from a procrastinator into a consistent action taker. So right after watching this video, try just one thing. Pick a goal, do its 2-minute version, and reward yourself immediately. You'll feel motivation return, not because of iron discipline, but because of the joy you plant into every step. In the final section, we'll talk about the power of persistence and the lessons from failure, to show you that consistency matters more than perfection. And failure is often the stepping stone to going further. There's a fascinating paradox. As children, we learn every new skill by failing repeatedly. Think back to when you learned to walk. You fell countless times, yet never thought, maybe walking isn't for me. You simply stood up and tried again, until those first steps became possible. But as adults, we equate failure with being worthless. Each time we quit halfway, we tell ourselves, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. This fear of mistakes becomes our greatest enemy, not failure itself. In reality, failure is just feedback. It tells you what doesn't work, so you can adjust. Persistent people aren't those who never fail, but those who turn failure into data that moves them forward. Look at any success story: entrepreneurs, artists, athletes. They all share one thing in common: more failures than successes. Yet they don't let failure stop them. They treat it as a stepping stone. Thomas Edison once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And it was precisely through that persistence that he created the light bulb, a discovery that changed the world. Persistence doesn't mean running fast, it means moving steadily, continuously. Some days, you may do very little, even feel like you're not progressing. But as long as you don't stop, you're still moving forward, like water dripping steadily, eventually carving through stone. So how do we stay persistent? The answer lies in changing our perspective on failure. Instead of seeing failure as the end, see it as a lesson. Instead of asking, why did I fail? Ask, what can I learn from this experience? Every time you dare to try again after failing, you're training resilience. And resilience is the real foundation for going far. Because success doesn't belong to the perfect, it belongs to those who don't give up. Imagine 1 year from now. How much could you achieve if every day you took one small step? Regardless of how many times you stumbled. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, start now, even if you fall, as long as you get back up and keep going. In the conclusion, we'll tie everything together: why small actions, sustainable habits, and persistence can change your entire future, and why the best time to start isn't tomorrow, but right now. We've just gone through a journey together, from understanding the mechanism of procrastination, learning how to break goals down, building easy habits, applying the 2-minute rule, to discovering the power of small actions and the lessons of persistence. All of this points to one core message: you don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to start with one small step today. Remember, success isn't one giant leap, it's thousands of small steps in the right direction. Consistency matters more than perfection. And failure isn't the end, it's simply a lesson that helps you go further. So right now, don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for the perfect day. Choose one goal you've been holding on to. Find the smallest 2-minute version of it, and do it now. A year from today, you'll thank yourself for this tiny decision. And before you go, here's one last note. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe to Different Thinking today. As a thank you, I've prepared a special gift just for you. A free ebook titled 5 Secrets to Beat Procrastination and Succeed. You can download it right now in the description or the pinned comment below. And to keep going on your growth journey, check out the full playlist through the link in the description as well. Remember, there's no moment more perfect to start than this very one.